Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It's 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, Monday, July the 12th. And this is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and it's a 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. You're more than welcome to sit in the chat room. It's open there today. I already have a good friend and an advocate from the UK sitting in the chat room, and an author. And yeah, I'm glad to be here, glad to be able to do these shows, and just want to continue looking at an article. Actually, we'll finish it up. It's an article that we were looking at all last week in the morning. It's regarding the effects of trauma, a self-help guide. It's called Dealing with the Effects of Trauma, a Self-Help Guide. It's from SAMHSA's National Mental Health Information Center, and that is at http colon or I think it's not a semicolon, but it's a colon / mentalhealth.samhsa.gov, G-O-V. It's a great article. I really like it. It's not all that long, but what they had to say was very good. And I think for anybody who's experienced any kind of trauma in their life, you know, whether it be child abuse or whether it be domestic violence or some type of assault, sexual assault, or violence in their life, right? Or people who have experienced trauma like car accidents, natural disasters, war, just things that are very traumatic. It's a great article regarding, they have some good things to say in it. And as we were going through it, we were talking a little bit about it, and they were saying, really, we really have to become our own best advocate. We have to be our best supporter, really, to get the help that we need, and to keep looking for that help. That was kind of what I kind of got from this whole article. But we'll finish that up, and there's only about a page left, so we'll take the last look at it. But I wanted to first, before I do that, I wanted to talk about a few things that are happening. I changed my show from tonight. My normal show, Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention, is up to us. Will not be airing here tonight because I moved that show to 2 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time because I have a guest coming on the show, Kate Swift, out of the UK. She is a survivor of child abuse. She is an author, a poet, and she's got her own website. She's doing so much really awesome work in the UK. And really around the world. Whoever gets a hold of her website and checks it out, you can see that anyone can benefit from her work. But what she's doing in the UK is just awesome. And I know that she's part of a larger network of people who are really fighting to make the necessary changes in the UK to help survivors of child abuse, and also really to help stop child abuse, which would be the best case scenario, right? So that we don't have survivors. If we can stop child abuse, then we won't have to be dealing with any more, future survivor issues, right? And that's what we want. No child should be abused. And people tend to not think about the fact that these children, if they actually, abuse children, if they actually survive, the abuse, then they're going to go on to live a life that can be very less than good. You know what I mean? They have to overcome what has happened to them in the past. And it really is a horrible situation for most survivors of child abuse, having to learn how to cope and how to deal with our own issues, and trying to find the proper support, trying to get the help within the system, and trying to get help from people in our own lives, right, to help support us and back us up. So it's very, very hard. We would like to see child abuse completely eliminated. That's the goal, I'm sure, of all of us, right? So her website is just amazing. It's called This Tangled Web, and that's also the name of her book. So Kate Swift is going to be on 2 p.m. here, Mountain Standard Time, for about an hour, and we're just going to chat. We're going to chat about her book. We're going to chat about her website. We're going to chat about the UK rally that's coming up in August of this year, later on in a couple months. And we're just going to sort of just have a nice, casual, informal chat. And I hope that you will tune in for that and join us here live. It's going to be great. If you have any questions for Kate, you can pop them into the chat room. And if you'd like to actually talk to Kate, you can just phone in, and I'll be taking some calls. And And then if you're a prank caller, just know that I will be hanging up on you very quickly. So the minute something, derogatory comes out of your mouth, I will hang up on you immediately. This is a very serious show, and it's a very serious topic, so we don't have room for prank calls. So, yeah, I hope that you will join in and listen to what Kate Swift has to say. It's going to be just awesome. I spoke with her a little bit yesterday, and it was just so nice to talk to her. She's a very nice lady, and I know that you're going to enjoy the show. I really do, because it's going to be an hour of just some real good conversation. And you can find her website at www.thistangled, TANGLED, web, thistangledweb.co.uk. And on there, there's poetry and a lot of art that she has done, artwork and sculpting and whatnot. You can see through her work and through her poetry just what she really went through as a child, trying to survive the abuse that was inflicted upon her, and she really allows you into her world and into her life. And I think as a survivor of child abuse, it's painful to look at, and it's painful to see. But the thing is it's so necessary for people to take a look at that, and for people to realize just how much trauma and how much pain and agony is caused, by child abuse of any kind, right? It doesn't matter what kind of child abuse it is, whether it's physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, psychological. It all hurts. So that's why I'm so looking forward to this show, talking to Kate, and she's just an awesome lady, and I think that we'll learn something from her. She's she's a wonderful person. And also, I wanted to mention John Harrison, because John Harrison has his own Blog Talk radio show now. John Harrison is in the UK as well, and he has a website, and he's an author. He is a poet, and he is an advocate to stop child abuse and an advocate for survivors of child abuse. And John Harrison is also a survivor of child abuse. And so, we relate on many levels, just the same with Kate Swift, right? And we are all somewhat connected, due to what we do, right? And you can find John Harrison here on Blog Talk Radio. Be safe first, always. And that's B, the letter B, and then safe, SAFE, the number 1, ST, and then always. Be safe first, always. And if you look down below on my friends, you can actually see there's a picture of it's like a drawing of or a sketching of a boy, and it's almost like watercolor. It looks like a picture. That's his link, and you can click on that, and you can find his website. And I will give you his website. I'll just read it out to you sometime. But his real website, where you can find all of his work and his some of his writings and what he's doing, and all of his links to everything that he is doing, at http://www.besafefirst.always.com. So that's B, letter B, safe, 1ST, always.com. And I just want to say one thing. I have his book. It's Whispers from Within, a survivor's collection of poetry and prose by John Harrison. And I started reading this book. I just got it recently, and I've been very, very busy. But I don't want to rush it. This is not something that you can just rush, This is something that you have to when you're reading a survivor's story, you want to take your time with it, because they're letting you into their life. They're letting you into their world, right? And so I just wanted to take a moment and just say that from what I read here, just in the very beginning of the book, and a few of the beginning the poems that he has in the book, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I would recommend this book for anyone, actually everyone. I would like to see everyone read it, as well as Kate Swift's book. But Whispers from Within, a survivor's collection of poetry and prose by John Harrison, is a book I would recommend. And he's not. It's not about the money. If you're in the UK, then you can pick this book up at the libraries there, right? He's not trying to make money from his book. What he wants is for other survivors to know, first of all, they're not alone, and that they can, make it. He's making it. I'm making it. Kate Swift is making it. We're all saying to you, reaching out to you, if you're a survivor of child abuse, just to say you have to keep going. You cannot give up. You have to keep going. And, to give up is to allow the abusers to win. That was my big thing, and so I can see this with John, John Harrison. He's not going to let that happen. He's not going to let his abusers win, because he's going to win, because he's going to keep going forward. And that's just such a powerful message to me. And the same with Kate Swift. She's another survivor. There's so many survivors, but these are just two that I just want to talk about this morning. And, Kate Swift, she's a survivor, and she is, of course it's hard. It's a day-to-day walk. But she's not going to allow her abuser to win, because she's going to keep going forward, right? And moving on, and keep looking for that help and that hope, wherever she can find it. So I just wanted to make, a brief sort of a mention about these guys, because, they're just amazing people to me, because I'm a survivor and I know how hard it is. And I see the work that they're doing, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I think the UK is certainly blessed to have them over there doing what they're doing. And there's so many more. I mean, we could spend months talking about advocates just in the UK alone. So, but we will, kind of touch on a lot of that, in the future. And we'll just keep going with whatever, good information I can find, right? So, before I start reading this stuff, I just want to say, this is not a professional show. I'm not a professional counselor or therapist. I don't hold any certificates in those areas. I'm just a private citizen who pays to do my own blog talk shows to bring out information to people regarding, child abuse survivor issues, the information on what's actually happening out there. If I find something good, that I think people can benefit from, because I'm benefiting from it, then, I just share it around. So that's why I do these shows, and really just to say that we need to stop child abuse. And also, if you're a young person under the age of 18, I ask that you have permission to listen to my show. And the reason being, excuse me, is that it's not, it's really ultimately about children, about stopping child abuse. But there's a lot of adult material on here sometimes, and I really think that to keep children safe, that's the number one priority. And so, if you're under the age of 18, you'd be doing me a favor and yourself a favor if you would get permission to listen to my shows. If you don't have a parent who cares, which I know quite often that is the case, as in my case. If you have a teacher, a counselor, someone in your school, a mentor, coach, someone who you really trust and who actually has proven themselves trustworthy, could listen to one of my shows and make, just sort of help you make the decision on whether or not you should be listening to it, because I don't know how young the people are, the children are who are listening to the show, right? So I just think you'd be keeping yourself safe, and that's a good way to practice staying safe online, right? So we'll get right on with this article now. We left off Friday morning. Friday morning they were talking about the healing journey, and they were saying, we left off with working on learning to communicate with others so they could easily understand what we mean, right? It says when talking with another person about your feelings, use I statements like I feel sad or I feel upset rather than accusing the person. And they said here, you may want to practice good communication with a friend. Ask your friend to give you feedback on how you can be more easily understood. That was just where we kind of left off there. Now, the next part they mention here is you may have lots of negative thoughts about yourself and your life. Work on changing these negative thoughts to positive ones. And the more you think positive thoughts, the better you will feel. For instance, you may always think, nobody likes me. When you think that thought, replace it with a thought like, I have many friends. And if you often think that you will never feel better, replace that thought with the thought, every day I am feeling better and better. And I think this is so important. We're actually now looking at the Dealing with the Effects of Trauma Self-Help Guide from SAMHSA's National Mental Health Information Center, right? This bit right here that they're talking about is so important. We really have to change the way that we think about ourselves. As survivors of child abuse, if you've survived child abuse, you've obviously been in a hard place. And it's not easy to overcome that whole picture of ourselves that was painted by our abuser on the inside of us. You know what I mean? Children who are abused, they take on whatever they've been shown. So, for instance, in my case, my parents were verbally abusive as well as physically abusive, and they were not kind people, right? And so all of the comments that they would make were very negative. So what it did was, over the years of listening to that, and being berated and verbally abused, and also some physical abuse in there too. It made me feel that what they were saying and what they were calling, the names that they were calling me, was true, because it built a picture of myself on the inside of me, so that when I would look in the mirror, I would see this ugly kid. I would see this girl who was, all these names that they would call me, whether I was just evil was one, no good, right? Just certain things like that, right? That's how I saw myself. So I grew up like that, and as in my teens, I actually took that on. So I became no good. I started doing drugs. I started hanging around with and I, don't get me wrong, I love my friends very much, and they were there when I needed them, and they were awesome people. And so, I don't want to put my friends down, but the whole issue is we were all survivors. Just about every one of us had been abused, and so we were on the streets running around, getting into trouble, doing drugs, doing exactly what my parents had told me that I was a bad kid, and that I basically did I became what they called me, right? And so that can happen, if you've survived child abuse and you've been through that, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, or that nobody likes you, you're not smart, you're just stupid, you're just dumb, right? I heard a lot of that as well. And what we have to do now as adult survivors, working through our healing journey, is change that picture. We have to see a different person inside of us than the picture, than that abused child that they kept pointing out to us how bad we were, or how that we weren't up to standard, or different things that parents will tell their children, right? We have to learn to see ourselves differently. And I started doing that about 3 years ago when I changed my mind and decided to start to fight to live instead of thinking about dying. You know what I mean? I was considering, not ending my life, but I was thinking, is that going to be the only way I'd ever have peace in my heart, was to end my life, and just wanting to self-injure so I could show the world my pain, things like that. Things that were not necessarily going to help me in the long run. So 3 years ago, I changed my mind, and I thought, no, I'm going to fight to live. I'm going to fight to have a good life, and I'm going to go on, because if I end my life, then my abusers win, my parents win. And I thought, no way, they're not winning this fight. I'm winning this fight. And so I got off the couch, and I got a little angry, and I said, this is ridiculous. Why am I still continuing to live like this at the age of 41? This is dumb. I need to go on and have a good life, and just forget about my abusers, and, just don't allow them to still control me, so many years later, because that's what was happening, right? And so I started to say things like, I do count, I do matter, and I am a good person, and look in the mirror and see a different person. I started to think, hey, I can work, I started to look at my positives instead of the things that had been, all of the sort of the horrible things that my parents had said about me. I started to sort of just ignore those and look at a whole new set of stuff and say, hey, I'm doing well, I'm doing good. And I started to become very positive thinking, and that I started to say, I can do it. And the minute I started saying that, I could feel this sort of sense of empowerment coming over me. I realized, hey, I can do it. I have been doing it. So it's proof that I can do it. And pretty soon, before you know it, a few months later, I started feeling a lot better, and things just sort of, went from there. I did develop a better sense, a better view of who I am, and who, the real Lori Ann Smith. You know what I mean? Not the ones that my parents created so many years ago. This is the real one inside of me now. Who I know is the real Lori Ann Smith. Who's a good person, and I try to be. I'm not perfect, that's for sure. But who is, I just try all the time to be kind to people, and to be a good person, and to do the right thing in every case, in every instance. And of course we're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. We're not perfect. And so the whole thing is we have to see ourselves as a person who, like it says here, they said here, say that instead of saying nobody likes me, change that out with I have many friends. And that's the truth, right? We have to do that. We have to say, if we say, oh, if we're thinking I can't, keep a job or something, then we can sit there and say, hey, but I get up every day and I try every day to do the best that I can. So instead of thinking negative things, we have to start thinking positive things that make us feel better. And they have to be realistic. They have to be something that you believe yourself. It's like, I'm doing good because I'm still here, and I'm still looking looking, for healing and for comfort, right? Now that is a positive in a very big way. So that's why it's so important that we do that. They also talk about developing an action plan. They say develop an action plan for prevention and recovery. And this is a simple plan that helps you stay well and respond to upsetting symptoms and events in ways that will keep you feeling well. So an action plan, for prevention and recovery, I really think that's necessary, especially when people are just starting out in their healing. I know I started looking around at a lot of self-help information regarding, child abuse survivor issues, right? And they were talking a lot about coping lists, on all these different websites. Michael C. Irving, IrvingStudios.com, he has some great coping lists on his website, the Child Abuse Survivor Monument. And you can type in www.irvingstudios.com, and it's Michael C. Irving. He's a psychotherapist. He's a sculptor, and he's also a survivor of child abuse, and he's out there trying to help people. His website, you can check it. It's Child Abuse Survivor Monument. You can type that into your browser too, and that will bring it up. But he's got some great information on there for survivors regarding coping lists. I went through them on my show last winter, and they are really, really good coping lists, and they really show. I didn't know too much about grounding. I didn't know too much about boundaries, right? Boundaries were just something I had no idea about boundaries, right? And it was very useful, very helpful for me to learn about boundaries and learn what they actually meant and learn how to set boundaries, right? And also grounding. If you're having if something comes up and a person can get triggered, right? Even myself at certain times, something will come up and it does cause me to sort of fall back a little bit in my healing journey. I'll be triggered and something will cause me to feel a little bit down. Coping lists and whatnot are very important for that, because we can have a coping list that will show us we have to create these things while we're feeling pretty good, so that when we're not feeling good, we're in a crisis or something, we can do these exercises within them. So there was breathing exercises, and I actually found those very helpful because sometimes when I'm triggered, anxiety will take over and I'll become very uptight and I think I'm just not breathing properly because I'm upset. So that's the thing, I learned how to use some of these techniques really to help myself feel better, just in self-help, right? So we can do this, and you have to find what works for you. What works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me, because we're all different. We've all been through different things, and we're all different people. We're made differently. So, we think differently. So you have to find out what works for you, and then make a list of what actually works, like whether it's breathing exercises, listening to music, writing in a journal, going for a long walk, talking with a friend, things like this. If you have a therapist or counselor, you want to put them on the list, really, so that you can contact them when you're not feeling well. Or if you belong to a group support, then you can put that on the list. Contact group support when you're not feeling, 100%. You're just feeling like you might be triggering and sort of, sort of going backwards in your healing. There's things that we can do to help ourselves out. Excuse that noise. That's the telephone, and it's a little earlier in the morning. I don't know who would be phoning this early, but I'll just let it go. So there's things that we can do to help ourselves, right? And I think that's the most important thing, is to sort of look around and figure out what is going to help us feel better, and then make a mental note of it or write it down, and it can help us to learn how to feel better. It says, using the activities in this section, things you can do to help yourself feel better. Make lists of things that will help you keep yourself well and will help you feel better when you're not feeling well. Include lists. We actually went through all that. That was the beginning of last week. But it says include lists like to remind yourself of things that you need to do every day, like getting a half an hour of exercise, eating 3 healthy meals, and also those things that you may or may not do every day, but if you miss them, they will cause stress in your life. For example, buying food, paying bills, or cleaning your home. I mean, even this kind of stuff is hard for survivors, and for people who have suffered trauma, right? Just doing the normal day-to-day things sometimes becomes very hard. And, then we become stressed out because we haven't done the things that we thought we should. So, it's a good idea to have lists where we can say, oh, I guess I better get this stuff done, and then because we've done it, we can feel better because it's not sitting there hanging over our heads, right? And it also keeps us focused on something instead of, it takes our mind off of what we were thinking about, and it allows us to maybe change our mind about something, we can start feeling a little bit better if we do these normal things like go pay bills, go to the store, go to work, eat 3 healthy meals, things like this, right? And also keep lists, they said here, of events or situations that may make you feel worse if they come up, like a fight with a family member, healthcare provider, or social worker, getting a big bill or a loss of something important. Then list things to do, like relax, talk to a friend, play your guitar. If these things happen, if we have our list, then we won't start feeling so badly, right? So if we have a list of what really bothers us, maybe it's confrontation with people or whatever. If we have a list that shows us what we like to do to help us to relax, to feel better, then we can grab that list right away, and we can say, okay, if this happens, I'll go and I'll play the piano, or I'll go and I'll listen to some music, or whatever you like to do. I'll go and work on in my workshop, like if you're a guy. And so that's just the thing. We have to have things sort of ahead of time set up that, when we are feeling bad, that will help us to feel better. So that's why I like these coping lists. And they said here, we need a list of signs that things are getting much worse, like you are feeling very depressed, you can't get out of bed in the morning, or you feel negative about everything. Then list things to do that will help you feel better quickly, like get someone to stay with you, spend extra time doing things you enjoy, or contact your doctor. And I think that's really the most important thing. If you have a family doctor, or you have a doctor who knows, a therapist who knows about your situation, if you're feeling depressed and you feel like, I can't even get out of bed, I'm so down, then you need to contact your therapist or your doctor, someone who, and if you don't have one of those, if you have a good friend or a group support person who you really kind of have become close with, then you'd want to contact them and let them know, hey, this is what's happening, I'm feeling so down. Don't allow yourself to stay in that space, you know what I mean? That's a hard place to be. I know so many of us survivors end up there at certain times in our life, and it's a horrible, horrible feeling to be suffering like that on your own. Just thinking, can I handle any more of this despair? You know what I mean? Can I handle any more of this darkness? And the whole issue is I'm here today, 3 years later, after beginning my healing journey, to tell you that yes, you can. You can do this. You can get through this. And there's other people out here like John Harrison speaking out saying you can do this. There's Kate Swift in the UK as well as John Harrison in the UK saying you can do this. There's so many people that I know in the United States and in Canada as well who are saying yes, you can do this. And so you want to hold on and look for those better days. When you start having more better days than bad days, I think that's a good sign, and that's where I'm at. I have so many more better days than I used to, and I think that's the important thing to remember, that there are better days, coming. But we have to be proactive. We can't sit around and wait for that help to come and land in our lap. Like I was saying last week, it's just not going to happen. Help just doesn't knock on the door and say, "Hello, I'm here to help you." I mean, we have to reach out. Ultimately, we have to find what works for us, whether it's group support, therapist, counselor, a good friend, someone in your life who you could reach out to get help, because it is really ultimately up to us to make that first step, to reach out. And it's hard, but you can do it. If I can do it, and John can do it, and Kate can do it, and you can do it. And we're really pulling for you, all of us. We're really pulling for you. If you're a survivor of child abuse and an adult survivor and you're just really having a hard time, we're pulling for you. And we're alive here to tell you, Elizabeth Brawley from Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, so many people, that I know personally who have survived child abuse and are here to tell you to keep going forward. Never, ever give up, and never give up on hope. Keep that hope alive and keep yourself alive, right? Because it will get better. I mean, it takes time. But it won't get better if you don't stay with it and you don't try. That's a guarantee. It is very much up to you, and it's up to me, right? So we have to do this for ourselves, right? So thanks everybody for tuning in. Don't forget 2:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Kate Swift here this afternoon. With we're going to be talking about her book, This Tangled Web, and then don't forget to check out John Harrison's Blog Talk Radio program here on Blog Talk Radio. Be safe first, always on Blog Talk Radio. He's got some great information on his. I know he's gonna do some great things. You You be checking, you be listening to what he has to say. And thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Got about 10 seconds left. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves, and make sure that you do reach out and get that help. Right? Don't suffer in silence. Don't suffer alone. Get some help. Have a good day. Bye-bye.